Hello and welcome to Deutschland Explained.
No worries, in this video I will explain why extremists will never be in charge in Germany. Let's go. Extremists, especially right-wing extremists, are on the rise in the world, in Europe and in Germany. Some states have right-wing extremist governments, or they have governments that cooperate with right-wing extremists. That is different in Germany. One reason for that is that Germany actively and intensively worked on discovering and being aware of the crimes and cruelties and mistakes that have been made in the past. And almost all Germans clearly say that diversity is beneficial and that we don't want to have a situation again like it was during the National Socialism. Of course, it is important to keep fighting for the state and for democracy every single day, especially in daily situations. But in this video I will show that you can really depend on the German constitution and the German state, and that even politically successful extremist parties will not be successful in the end. Thanks to the USA, Great Britain, France and the German Parliamentary Council, we have a very strong constitution that was especially created for one purpose: to make it impossible for extremist parties to repeat what happened during the time of National Socialism in Germany. In this video I will show you the different democratic security instances against extremist movements in Germany. Let's start out with the scenario that an extremist party gets a lot of votes in at least 3 German states. Even if this party reaches a really high amount of votes, like 30 to 40%, which is already unthinkable, the other parties in the parliament will still have the majority. You need more than 50% of the seats in the parliament to have the majority and to be able to form the state government. Even with the extremist party being the strongest faction, the other parties still have the majority in the parliament and they can block any motion of this party. So as a result, even an extremist party that is by far the strongest faction in the parliament wouldn't be able to make law or to build the government in the state. Now let's just assume theoretically an extremist party would be able to get more than 50% of the seats in 3 state parliaments, and they would be able to build the state government. In this case, the extremist party would be able to rule the state and make state laws, but these state laws, on the other hand, would be checked by the respective state constitutional court and eventually by the German constitutional court, whether they are constitutional or unconstitutional. So any law that is unconstitutional because it, for example, tries to dismiss human rights, like freedom of press, freedom of speech, will be dismissed itself because it is unconstitutional, and the extremist party wouldn't be successful like this. In the German parliament, the Bundestag, we have the exact same situation. Also here, the extremist party would have to reach more than 50% of the seats in the parliament, which is already unrealistic. But again, let's just theoretically say it would happen, and the extremist party would have the majority of seats in the German Bundestag, and they would be able to build the German government like this. Then they could pass a law, but this law would be first checked by the Bundesrat. The Bundesrat represents all state governments. So even here, the extremist party doesn't have a majority if they only rule 3 or 4 or 5 states in Germany. To have the majority in the Bundesrat, the party needs to have the majority in at least 7 states, which is totally unrealistic too. So any law that comes from this extremist party out of the Bundestag would be checked by the Bundesrat, and the Bundesrat could reject it. In this situation, federal laws that affect the states would automatically be dismissed and not in force, and the appeal against federal laws that do not affect states could be overruled by the extremist party in the Bundestag. But that still doesn't mean that this law is in force. For a federal law to be in force, the German president has to sign it. The German president is neutral and doesn't belong to a political party, and his decisions have to be based on the constitution. If the German president would think that this law is unconstitutional, he would refuse to sign it. And without his signature, the law cannot be in force. In this situation, the extremist party could file an appeal to the German Constitutional Court, but they wouldn't be successful here too. The judges at the Constitutional Court have to make their decisions based only on the Constitution. And if they think that this law is unconstitutional because it affects basic rights like equality, religious freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of press, or if this law tries to get rid of or change democratic structures, like for example the setup of the Constitutional Court, the court will dismiss this law as unconstitutional and it will not be in force and the extremist party will still not be successful. But on top of all these regulations, the Grundgesetz has two more tricks to offer. You can find them in Article 79 of the Grundgesetz. The first regulation states that if you want to change the Grundgesetz itself, you need a majority of 2/3 in the Bundestag and another majority of 2/3 in the Bundesrat. That means that the extremist party that has more than 50% in the Bundesrat and more than 50% in the Bundestag, which is already totally unrealistic and unthinkable, that's still not enough. They need 2/3 in both organs. Just to point out how unrealistic that is, the CDU reached in 1957 the highest ever result in votes for a Bundestagswahl in Germany, and it was 50.2%. So it is totally illusory that an extremist party in Germany would ever be able to reach 50% or even 66% of the votes in a Bundestagswahl. For the last 30 years, the winning party could always be very happy to have 35 to 45%. On top of that, in Germany at the moment we only have one state that is run by only one party. All other states are run by 2 or 3 party coalitions. The other regulation states that all changes that are made to the Grundgesetz that, for example, change the existence of states in Germany or the participation of states in the lawmaking process of federal laws, or change the basic rights in Germany, for example, the human dignity, equality, freedom of press, freedom of speech, all these things, if they are affected in their core, in their meaning, then these changes are void. In this way, the Grundgesetz itself already excludes all possibilities to change the values that our free democratic state is based on. Of course, it is important to take every extremist movement seriously and to fight them and stand up against them in any way and in every situation. But it is also important to not be anxious and to trust our constitution. By its history, it is made to defend our democracy and our values against extremists. And no matter how loud they are, our democracy is able to defend itself against them. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to support the channel, please hit the subscribe button. And thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you next time. Bye.